our next guest, former NFL running back, and I'm glad to have him on the show. I got some things to ask him, but NFL analyst now, Merril Hoge. Merril, welcome to the Odd Couple, man.
Yo.
Yeah, I love the Odd Couple. It's going to be part of the Odd Couple.
No doubt. Hey, Chris, you should see Merril. I mean, my God, he's in great shape.
No, I see what I see. I see him waist up. He looks like he could get back in, could be playing this weekend.
Hey, he wants some of that NFL money right now.
I just got one rule: don't hit me. I'm all in. Just don't hit me.
Now, Merril, tell us what you're here for, and then we'll get into some of the football.
Okay, well, just really quick, this breather fit. Came to my attention, and when they were describing to me, I'm like, that's exactly what I did after open heart surgery, so I could strengthen my lung capacity to leave the hospital. And then he said, well, did you know that after age 30, everybody starts to slowly erode from their respiratory perspective. Less oxygen comes into your body.
I didn't realize it was that early on in life.
Neither
30?
did I.
I did not know that, Mel.
It starts to erode. So that means less oxygen goes to the brain, which there's two key functions about brain function. That's oxygen and blood flow. And the better we keep that going, the healthier we are going to be. So anyway, I do train a lot, and I do cardio, so I thought, I didn't know the respiratory system could be isolated and that you could just train it to strengthen it. So I'm like, I don't want to believe it. I want to try it. So I start trying it. I actually felt the difference. I was like, well, I can actually feel how I do feel stronger when I'm doing my cardio. But here's where I did an accident, which is typical of a C student. You don't do it on purpose. You do it on accident.
Right.
I take a trip to Pebble Beach and Santa Barbara, and then I had to go to Arizona and Utah. So I was gone for like 14 days. I trained while I was gone. I lifted. I stretched, but I didn't do any cardio. And I did this. So I got home and I started doing my cardio. I'd do a high-intense cardio as my first day. And you could tell that I hadn't worked out for 2 weeks by my heart rate. But my ability to breathe was easy. And I was like, holy cow.
And it was that.
I was like, so let's say somebody isn't doing any cardio. You could do this 5 minutes a day, twice a day, 6 days out of the week. And you can improve your respiratory system and your ability to breathe and oxygen flow. And that improvement will help you feel better, think better, function better. And if that is the worst thing that comes from it, that is a good thing. And if it adds a little more to spark you to invest in your health a little more and to add a little cardio, you eat a little better, then
Chris can get rid of that spare tire.
Yeah, Chris can be like a lean machine, baby. So you can go to breatherfit.com if you're interested, and you don't have to be somebody who's never done it. You can be somebody who's really training good, and you can enhance your program. So it's benefit for everybody.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So thank you guys.
No, definitely. Well, what I wanted to ask you about, Merril, because I remember we had you on a few years ago, and I'd even heard you interviewed on other shows. And you wrote a book a few years ago, right, about kind of, I hope this doesn't miscalculate what you were saying, but kind of challenging the talk about CTE or the damage that football does to, people's brains and players and things like that. So, one, I want to know, again, tell us about the book and your viewpoint. And I want to know kind of where that's at, because you only hear the other side. You really don't hear your side very much.
Yeah. So we'll update the science. So really, all I'm telling you is what the science tells you and the truth of the science. So in the book I wrote, which is actually a little over 5 years ago,
wow,
there was no science to support that playing football at any level at any time is going to leave you with the possibility of a brain disease or cognitive impairment. Okay, there's no scientific evidence to back that. In fact, to update the science, they just did, research was just done where they looked at all of the research done over the last 20 years from 2003 to 2023. And there was a certain standard of science that was required based on the papers they selected. Not one of Boston University's papers were selected in this particular review for this. It's weakness in science, and I'll get to that and why it is weak science and disgusting science. And they're the ones that created this narrative too, by the way, Chris. So this is where it all starts. In all of the literature, so that's every piece of literature that has been done in 20 years was looked at, and there's not one piece of evidence that says if playing contact sports, contact football, you have a risk of having some type of brain disease later in life. There's not one. And this was more poignant to the California bill when they're trying to ban tackle football. There is no reason to ban that based on a scientific aspect. Now, you go back to the people that created this. When I first wrote this book, I couldn't share a lot of things that I knew at the time because the book wouldn't have ever been published, would have been in legal arguments. Well, Boston University has been in the court of public opinion. So they can say anything they want. People aren't going to go read the scientific literature. They're not going to verify if it's true or not true. They're just going to spew what Boston University says their science says without reading it, which is deplorable and harmful, quite honestly, to people from a journalist perspective if you don't do that, because that's your responsibility to know that if you're going to share it. Well, they've been in a bunch of court cases, so they now went into the court of law. They have been exposed for changing medical records, adding to medical records, the scientists and the medical people of Boston University. And that is court documents. That is not me saying it. That is in the public arena. That is based on depositions. That is why their science is atrocious. There is no, now that doesn't mean that concussions are okay or having head trauma is okay, because it's not, and there is ways to repair and recover from that. What it's not going to lead to is a brain disease, because there's no scientific evidence to support that. There's not a shred of evidence. In fact, the science that is coming out more and more and more is stacking against that, which is a critical step of science: replication and duplication. You must continue to look at and research it and do it over and over again. And everything that's replicated and duplicated keeps back to saying that there is not going to be a brain disease later in life. Now, the pattern of CTE does exist. Okay, but it's not. It's in an observation state, and more people that have that pattern, that are in the medical journal, and this is a scientific fact and a medical fact, had never played football. More people in the medical journal have that pattern, never played football, never had a head trauma, and never played a contact sport in their life. Okay, now I can just tell you this just by the sampling enough. That tells you that football isn't even a part of the equation.
But let me ask you this, and. There are, for football players, a lot of football players drop dead in their 50s, and there's a lot of, and I don't have the exact numbers. So are you saying that football has nothing to do with some of these people who have played and experienced things later on in life? Are you saying that? Okay.
No. I'm saying
that's what
playing football does not cause a brain disease or the pattern CTE. Okay, that's not causing the CTE pattern, and then you're having a brain disease later in life. That's what I'm saying. Can you have some cognitive issues from playing the football and having some impact? Okay. I'm a living example of that. What ended my career was improper care, and it wasn't the concussion, it was improper care. That physical trauma that ended my career, I went into cardiac arrest, I laid in intensive care for days, I had to learn how to read again. The physical aspect of what I experienced, I eventually recovered from. I did some treatment, some protocols, actually self-anointed stuff. Now we have protocols, and we have treatment and care that can help repair that. But the thing that put me over the edge, the thing that sat me on a couch and brought dark days in my life, was the emotional trauma, the loss, the no purpose, the no hope. I lost my career, something I'd done for 22 years. Emotional trauma is our bigger concern than the actual physical trauma. Now they can have similar symptoms, but think of this. When you think of, I mentioned the Pebble Beach trip. I'm on a trip with 4 people, okay? These 4 guys that are there every one of them are going to have a knee replacement or a hip replacement within the next year. One of their sons died at age 53, drug overdose. The other one committed suicide at age 38. And the other one his wife got dementia at age 59. If these were NFL players and I gave you that whole scenario, people would point out one thing: football. They would say football caused it. That's what. Now, I'm not saying there's not wear and tear from playing the game of football. I'm not saying it's okay to have head trauma. That's why we have protocols in place. But there's incredible treatment. There's incredible rehab process that can help you recover from that. The emotional trauma is the bigger aspect of life and our concerns, and there's care for that as well.
So when you hear, and we've heard some former football players who will not allow their kids to play. Even Brett Favre went on the record and said he has daughters, but he said if he had a son, he wouldn't let him play football. Yeah. When you hear that, What do you make of that? And that's I'm just
Well,
that's
okay.
just. Am I right, Chris? Did
No,
you say
yeah.
that?
I've heard it.
That's all.
Yeah,
I
I've
just
heard
want
that
to make
before.
sure I'm
And-
not.
And Chris, I'm glad you brought all this up because these are topics
Yeah.
that are going to keep
Yeah.
evolving, and we need to.
We have to talk about it if
Right.
you're here.
And
I mean,
we need-
otherwise, what would
right.
be the purpose?
And we
for
need
having
to
it?
share what the real facts
Right.
are.
But I'm just saying, when you hear that-
when I'm going to say that, I don't know where they're getting their information. Okay, are they hearing it from the media? Because I'll go back to this. I had a son too. Started playing at age 7, played all the way to a Division I scholarship to BYU. Played quarterback. I coached thousands and thousands of kids from ages 8 to 18. I see the ultimate value that sports, especially football, can help, the resiliency, all of the tools that you create for a young man and young kids to give them tools for life's work and the value in that. And when I hear somebody say they want their kids to play a contact sport, I would just have to, well, where did you get that information? What are you basing your information on? I think a parent has the responsibility to look at all the information.
But some of those guys, I've asked that question, and they say, when I can't get up, or my body, or what I've been through physically, I don't want my children to go through that. That's the answer that they give me. And so their thing is not scientific or through a book. It's their own
experience.
And you can't. It's hard to argue with that if they've experienced
I
something.
never argue with that. I never argue
And that was the
another
reason that they
parent.
said,
I
right.
would never argue another parent's reasoning for not doing it. But I'd have a lot of parents come to me and go, well, I heard that, they're going to get a brain. My kid, if I play youth football, he's going to have brain disease later in life. Absolutely, that's not true. There's no science to support that. I'll give you the scientific literature to read it. I'm not going to change your mind because I have no right to do that. I just want to open your mind so that you have the right information. If you're going to rob your kid of something they love, at least do it with all the information before you rob them.
Merril, we got to go, but in about 15 seconds, I know that's quick, if you can. Is the league, do you have a voice with the league or anybody that's promoting your viewpoint? Is the league hearing that or not?
There's a yes and a no to that, Chris. Here's everybody saw what happened to Tua. Okay, this is still the biggest problem with head trauma. It is improper care. We have protocols and tools in place. If they're not executed properly, it comes down to failure of using the proper protocols and tool. That failed me. That failed Tua, and that's still the biggest problem. Listen, if we don't want to have head trauma, then don't live in your home. Leading cause of head trauma: tripping and falling. Most dangerous environment: your home. Don't let your kids walk into a shower. Don't let them go down the stairs. Okay. If it does happen, what do you do and what protocols put in place? Get them the right treatment. Get them the right care. Don't live in fear. Live by what you trust.
That's great stuff, Merril. Well, quickly, the name of your book, for those that might want to get it?
Brainwashed.
Brainwashed.
It's
All right.
just brainwashed, and the bad science behind the bad science behind CTE and the plot to destroy football.
Chris is brainwashed. He thinks Tom Brady is the GOAT, and I think it's Joe Montana. I just want you to know.
Chris, I actually like your thinking. I don't think anybody could trump Tom Brady.
I knew Merril was going to be with me. He's
They
a smart
cheated.
guy.
When did they cheat?
They cheated with the
you know they
Patriots.
cheated?
Go ask Eric
Y'all can
Mangini.
finish this. Y'all can finish this off air. But Merril Hoge, great stuff,
Thank you,
Merril.
Merril.
We appreciate
Thanks,
it,
Chris.
brother.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you, man.